Welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Bajo, and this week it's a journey from the past to the future.
Yes, from the tumbleweed western action of Call of Juarez Gunslinger.
To the twisty-turny memory adjustment futuristicness of Remember Me.
The power to take what someone is, their memories, and bend them to my will. To rewrite their history. To play God.
And we stop off somewhere in between with Sanctum 2. But first, can you guess the game for this week?
What could it be?
J'arrive!
I just love saying Juarez Hex.
Juarez! Ding 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 ding.
Gonna go read the news?
Ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding.
Actually, none of that kind of music in Juarez.
Good game!
Peter Molyneux's Curiosity experiment has concluded. The project was a competition in which supposedly a life-changing prize awaited the first player to tap into the centre of a giant cube. The prize turned out to be the chance to play as the god of all players in Molyneux's upcoming game, Goddess. The role will give the winner the power to dictate game rules as well as receive a percentage of profits from sales of the game. The winner and eventual messiah to all players will be Brian Henderson from Edinburgh. DayZ creator Dean Rocket Hall has safely completed his ascent of the highest point on Earth, Mount Everest. Hall reached the summit just in time for sunrise on the 21st of May, making him the 42nd New Zealander to ever accomplish the climb. Microsoft has filed for a patent that will reward achievements for watching TV. The patent aims to increase interactive viewing and encourage users to watch more of a particular piece of content, for example, rewarding them for watching the entire season of a show. It could even reward viewers for performing specific actions, such as holding up certain products while watching commercials.
Good game!
Hey Hex, what do you get when you take the first-person shooter genre and add it to tower defense and then make a sequel?
Okay, first of all, that's the worst intro ever, and second, you know that I know it's Sanctum 2.
You get Sanctum 2.
Walkers approaching! One tower at a time. All good. This is gonna get him.
The original Sanctum set up some pretty solid foundations. First, you create a lethal maze, and then you run around inside it, blasting away at waves of bugs. An undeniably fun combo.
The sequel pretty much does the same thing, but with a few notable changes. There is a campaign with 16 different maps to work your way through, either solo or co-op. And there's a story told through a few comic panels in the loading screens, but it's essentially aliens attacking your cores. It's your job to stop them.
This time around, the maps are more intimate, so enemies come in smaller waves. But to counter this, they're now tougher, and occasionally they even throw in a giant boss. These guys actually rip through your defenses. There's also a bit more variety to the maps than we saw before.
Each map has special zones where you can raise your defenses to try and stop the bugs from getting to your precious core. Between rounds, you'll earn some resources and tower bases, which you can set up in whatever pattern you see fit, and this allows you to build a maze without it costing any resources.
All clear for now.
But you will only be able to afford 2 or 3 turrets each round, so there is stuff to think about there.
Yeah, and of course, as with most tower defense games, the key is to really create the longest maze possible for enemies to walk through and force them past as many turrets as possible. Because turrets are limited, you'll need to decide whether to remove your old ones and rearrange your defenses or simply upgrade them.
You also need to get in there and fight them back yourself. Most rounds feel like they're getting right down to the wire, with those big heavy units getting really close to your core.
Yeah, you can't just sit back and let the turrets do everything. Also, now you can choose from one of 4 characters before the match starts, and each has a special weapon and ability. You can equip a second gun of your choice, but these don't include the major weapons. So if you want to use a sniper rifle, you have to choose the sniper character, for example. But you know, that's just extra incentive to play in co-op.
Yeah, and you know, truly, I only enjoy these games when you're playing it with a friend, especially in this one when you've got full access to the entire arsenal of special weapons. Also, as you level up now, you unlock new perks, guns, and turrets. There's some pretty powerful perks in there you'll want to experiment with to find out what style works best for each character and map.
It took me a while to figure out the reload mechanic here, because unlike most games, you can actually still be reloading after you've switched weapons. It is great though, since it means that you can constantly be switching weapons and firing away rather than just waiting for a reload. Also, if you're up for a bit of a challenge, you can toggle on feats of strength, which boost the enemy in a number of ways, like giving them rechargeable health or making them just stronger. And these will give you a nice big XP boost as well.
And that's really all there is to it. There's nothing revolutionary here, but it's a simple idea done well, so I think it's worth an 8.
Yeah, it's an 8 from me too. Hey, I wonder what's happening in Tiny Power.
Let's find out.
It might help your recovery if you express your feelings about rejection in a text-based adventure.
The end. Here's the game you asked for. It's called I Have Weird Ears. Making it was the most painful thing I've ever been through.
Try being stabbed in the neck by a prostitute.
There's things about me in there that I've never told anyone, not even myself. My soul is laid bare, so please don't show it to anyone.
Oh, I just put it on the internet. Sorry, I'm not myself right now. There's a chance I might have syphilis.
Good game.
More from Tiny Power next week. Now, in our social media addicted generation where we feel compelled to share absolutely everything, do you ever wonder what the next step will be? What if we could share our actual memories? This is a concept that's explored in Capcom's new action-adventure title, Remember Me.
Your turn is coming.
You'll remember me.
The year is 2084 in what is now called Neo Paris. A new brain implant called Sensen has swept the population, allowing people to share their memories online.
My husband lives on. Here. And here.
But, of course, at the root of this tech is a mega corporation called Memorize, whose control over people's minds have allowed them to create a state of extreme surveillance.
You play as Nilin, a former memory hunter who, after having her memory wiped, is recruited by a rebel group trying to bring Memorize down. It's a little bit Total Recall, a little bit Minority Report, but there are some seriously cool sci-fi concepts here that just had me on board with the story straight off the bat.
It's a really stylish setting for a game, and they do an excellent job in creating this dystopic Parisian future.
Behold the privileged few, safe with their little comforts, while others live in suffering.
Sadly, much of the design of this game feels sloppy to me, and the environment can be difficult to navigate at times. Things are either painfully obvious or frustratingly unclear. The game just doesn't do a good job of guiding you through in a way that feels intuitive.
Yeah, great pains have been taken to create an environment that's visually nice to look at. They've done a lot of interesting camera work as you navigate your way through certain climbing sections, but this is more often than not to the detriment of basic movement, and you end up just getting frustrated with it.
The controls just feel awkward too, don't they? It doesn't quite meet that standard that we're used to for climbing and parkour games.
Yeah, although there were times when I just fell in love with this city in spite of that. I thought the art style was fantastic, and the way the music swells as you climb to a higher point to take in those cityscapes was just awesome. I was slow panning a lot, and that's a good sign. This is a world I wanted to explore. Sadly, once you look a little closer, it all feels a little bit lifeless. There's not a lot you can actually interact with here, save from a few doors and levers. You know how some cities really make you feel like you're walking through something that's real and lived in? This kind of felt like you're walking through a two-dimensional movie set, so I was a little bit disappointed by that.
Moving to combat, fights seem to occur in glaringly obvious purpose-built rooms and always in staggered waves. It's combo-based, but they worked in some interesting ideas into the fighting style. You're supplied with a series of different combo chains in which you can unlock and customize attacks to mix and match within each set. Some attacks deal damage, some restore health, others are multipliers, and some serve to speed up cooldown times for special abilities.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about this at first. It took a little bit of experimentation with the placement of various different attacks before I found a combo that I could pull off easily in a fight. Rather than blocks or counters, you'll focus mainly on speedy dodging to avoid combo breakers, so it's tricky keeping a complex combo chain in your head while you're hitting A to dodge every 5 seconds, let alone remembering which combo chain you put the health regen in, but you do get used to it.
Yeah, I think you'll either love or hate this fighting system, and I wasn't much of a fan. On the surface, it appears to have depth to it, but it boils down to the same repetitive attacks while constantly cartwheeling out of the way of overt enemy telegraphing. I thought the cartwheel was a bit overdramatic, a bit impractical perhaps, to dodge out of the way.
It's not really a cartwheel. I mean, she's like a gymnast. She's got the acrobatic kind of capoeira style.
The capoeira style.
Yeah, like martial arts moves.
Still seems impractical to me.
It's like one of those kind of
She
twists.
just duck and roll out of the way.
No, because
all the time.
she goes like this.
Oh, we're demonstrating?
Yeah. She does those kind of moves that go like this. Hang on, stand out of the way. Like,
very
you know,
good.
like a spinning, like a helicopter kick.
I think she should do duck and rolls.
How is a duck and roll more practical?
'Cause you just
If you're in
do
a combat situation,
Yeah.
right, and someone's attacking you, how is that more practical than this?
I digress. Duck and rolls are not practical.
I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah.
The point is, I started to really enjoy the combo patterns once I got used to them.
My spine hurts.
I mean, this is a game where you simply cannot win any fight by button mashing. It just won't let you. You're forced into making use of the attack combinations that you chose, and I think that's really cool. Admittedly, I did prefer the slower, calculated fights that you have with heavy goons rather than the wild scraps you have with those leaper things.
Leapers are these memory addicts that have overdosed and mutated into some kind of subhuman creature. They move quickly, can blink in and out of view, and if you get overwhelmed, they can make your life pretty difficult. Some fights will see you needing to rely on constantly hitting floodlights to expose them, or using lots of your cooldown combos so that you can waste them with your special abilities.
You also have a ranged weapon that can be fired from your fancy arm thingy, and it's good for breaking through shields and is particularly useful in boss fights as well, some of which are visually very interesting scenarios but get a little tiresome and repetitive after the 3rd or 4th stage of the fight. Plus, there are other just plain dumb design flaws where QuickTime events will happen, but amidst all the flashy artwork, you can't actually see what button you're supposed to press. Play that back. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah, and it's moments like that where this game just gets a little too caught up in its style and presentation and falls down on basic elements, which should just feel organic and natural.
I agree. The game's strength for me really lies in its setting and its characters. The story starts out a little convoluted, the amnesia certainly doesn't help, but Nilin makes for a seriously cool protagonist with some really great voice work too.
In my chest, my throat, on the tips of my fingers, I can feel the throb of the power that scares them.
One of the more unique ideas in this game is how you delve into people's minds and mess with them, essentially rewriting events in their minds.
Yeah, that was interesting. A part of your skills as a memory hunter is the ability to steal people's memories and remix them. As a player, this takes form by allowing you to fast forward and rewind a scene, pinpointing certain moments which act as a catalyst to change the events of that memory and its outcome. It's a cool device, but I'm glad I didn't have to do it too often because it is quite time-consuming and a little fiddly.
Yeah, and there are a whole bunch of scenarios that you have to play out before you get the right outcome too. But we should wrap this up, Hex.
I loved that art and design, but not enough time was spent finessing the basic mechanics or adding depth to the world.
Yeah, there were a few basic missteps. To me, it felt like half a game, and a lot of the ideas felt half-developed. It's such a shame because I was really intrigued by the story, and I love a good sci-fi world, and it could have been amazing, but I don't think it is, so I'm giving it 5.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
That's a fair score, and I should really score it the same. There are some inexcusable flaws here, yes. However, I did enjoy the combat, and I actually think a lot of the navigating the environment picked up as the game progressed. Well, kind of. You know, I got really attached to Nil, and I was committed to her cause, and I think when you're willing to put up with some pretty shoddy level design to see through a game's story, it shows they're doing something right. I was keen to stay in Neo Paris for a little bit longer, so I'm actually giving it 7.
And now here's Dave.
Well, hello there, I'm Dave, and this is one of my ancestors, Field Marshal Montgomery Callan. He was a Templar. The Assassin's Creed franchise is wonderful for those who like their history liberally sprinkled with parkour and stabbing. Let's face it, who doesn't? Even the French. All enabled by that wonderful machine, the Animus. The Animus, of course, is a rather special piece of technology that allows you to travel through history, stabbing everyone you meet. Except Leonardo da Vinci, but pretty much everyone else. It really is quite stabby. Seriously, you can count on one hand how many people you don't stab in the games, and that hand belongs to Altair, and he's only got 4 fingers. Well, 3 and a thumb. So, you're probably wondering how this machine works exactly. The Animus coming from the Latin referring to the soul or spirit, was originally created in an unknown age by the first civilization, an advanced ancient species thought to be the first on Earth.
The rest is up to you.
I have so many questions.
It was discovered by the Templars and subsequently went through a number of revisions. In testing the technology, Abstergo went through 16 test subjects before they got to Desmond Miles.
He seems to be remembering something else.
Like a memory inside a memory?
Yes, exactly. Maybe.
Exactly, maybe.
In fact, Abstergo techs realized candidates weren't responding particularly well and so changed the interface on the Animus to be more like a video game console, which, you know, works for us. The Animus 1.0 was that high-tech bed you saw in the first game. By the time of the sequel, it had become the Animus 2.0 and resembled a more comfortable chair. The Animus made it to version 3.1 in Revelations, and now it's built into a piece of cave. It projects your ancestors' memories in 3D and allows a degree of interaction with the world. If you stray too far from history, you lose synchronization with the machine and eventually get booted.
I think I've got something.
Too much use of the Animus can have damaging psychological effects.
What was that?
Called the bleeding effect.
Hello?
So, until they build an Animus into one of those luxurious massage chairs, make sure Desmond gets up and has a bit of a walk around. Don't want to be a badass assassin in VR, IRL, be limping down the corridor, all atrophied holding your apple of Eden like this guy here. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the drawing room. It's good night from me and good night from Montgomery.
Good game.
And now it's time to answer the call of
Ding-ding-ling-ling.
What is this that I can't see with ice cold hands taking hold of me? Well, I am death, none can excel. I'll open the door to heaven or hell.
Oh, Hex, I love a good Western.
Oh, me too. The dusty locations, the rickety spinning barrel gunplay, and the romance of the Lone Ranger coming into town to put things right.
Don't I know you, sir? Don't believe so. I haven't been here in many years.
Call of Juarez Gunslinger is the 4th in the series, and this shooter is brought to us by Techland, who also made the Dead Island games.
I think it's safe to say that the Cartel, the last Juarez game, really missed the mark by bringing things into the modern day. Gunslinger is another beast entirely and returns the series to its Wild West roots in the best of ways. Now, not only is it a relatively cheap downloadable title, but it's also one of the most entertaining westerns I have ever played.
Yeah, this game knows what it sets out to do, and it does it very well.
Let me tell you what happened that day.
You play as Silas Greaves, an old bounty hunter who sits down in a bar to tell his gunslinging tales.
It would be an honor if you would allow me to buy you a beer.
Hell, son, it would be my honor to drink it.
You instantly love Silas, don't you? I mean, he's dark when he needs to be.
What did he do? He did me and my family a grievous harm.
But often hilarious as well.
I knew that dynamite wasn't mine, so I decided the polite thing would be to return it.
And his voice acting just fits the role perfectly.
Yeah, it's so easy to identify with this hero.
First man I hunted was back when I was riding with Billy the Kid.
You knew Billy the Kid?
Damn right.
We've seen this archetype many times before. The gruff gunslinger near the end of his rough life, just waiting for unexpected vengeance to come around the corner when he isn't looking.
I dodged death many a time, and that night in Abilene was no different.
Like old Wild Bill Hickok.
Yeah, but he's also a hero of sorts. I mean, he has gunned down a lot of people, but they were all trying to kill him or left him no choice.
Ordinary citizens who lived a double life.
As his story is told through simple but effective cutscenes, you'll be thrown into the action yourself, reliving it as the story twists and turns.
They must have paid you a pretty penny to take them hombres on.
Not really. But truth be told, I had my own reasons for going after those boys.
And unexpectedly, it's done in such a sophisticated and fresh way. This isn't just a flashback story.
I came upon them robbing a stagecoach, which wasn't surprising, being they were such murderous thieves and bastards.
As Silas gets more and more drunk, his retelling of the story changes and rewinds depending on what he suddenly remembers.
Let me back up and give you some background on this sumbitch. He deserves that much.
Or just the way he decides to embellish.
No, boy. That ain't what I meant when I said I met Pat Garrett.
Or if he just wants to move on.
Stepped inside and...
And when this happens, it dynamically changes in the gameplay.
You went in there alone to confront those criminals.
Suddenly, a ladder will be thrown into the level.
It was autumn. The maple trees were in full color.
Or even the seasons and weather can change based on arguments Silas is having with the people he's telling the tale to.
Sorry, kid, but that just wasn't the way it happened. It was early evening, not high noon.
This sort of thing has kind of been done before here and there, but never this good and never this consistently.
Yeah, it's such engaging gameplay. I mean, you never know what's coming next. This type of storytelling instantly reminds me of Bastion's dynamic narrative.
I had to jump from roof to roof like a damn alley cat.
And wanting to hear more of the story pulls you through the level as you're just itching for the next morsel of dialogue. You can tell the developers really wanted to keep things fresh and unexpected for the gamer.
I came at them like a wildcat. My fury knew no bounds. It was finally time for that old man to pay for his sins.
Occasionally levels end a little bit abruptly and you sort of wish you had more time to explore, but there are some top moments that we won't spoil for you. Even though you kind of sense what's coming towards the end, the payoff is absolutely worth it.
I especially liked it when the game paused Dukes of Hazzard style.
That's when Charlie got hit. You're catching us in a crossfire, shouted. Get to the other side.
The best part is you meet all these famous, iconic Western, real-life characters, and you learn more about their stories along the way. Everyone from Billy the Kid...
Grab a gun and get to the window!
The Dalton brothers...
Those Daltons were lawmen once.
And Jesse James get a look in. Not rewriting history, but certainly taking some liberties to allow Silas to be a part of the action.
Wait, so you were friends with Billy the Kid?
Yeah, sort of.
In fact, I would go so far as to call it creative edutainment.
Well, I don't know about that.
But you got all these collectible cars that you go and pick up, and for once I actually wanted to collect them all because they had these really cool little Western stories about things that actually happened. And I went afterwards, after I finished the game, I went online and even read up a bit more about them. That's edutainment.
Whoa. All right, well, let's talk about the combat. This is a tight shooter. Guns handle the way they should, controls are responsive, and it draws scoring ideas from Bulletstorm. Each enemy kill rewards you with XP, and their individual fall is in slow motion, which adds a nice style to the action. Plus, there's actually quite a developed perk system, which you don't always see in smaller games like this. You can go for pistols or ranged or shotgun, but each tree has their own strategies besides what weapon you just like using. I did find the shotgun tree to be a little bit useless though, especially if you're playing on hard.
Yeah, and most of your fighting is ranged anyway. I did like that if you do so well in the first level, it asks you to put the difficulty up. That's never happened to me in a game before. Yes, game, I will take your offer and challenge myself a bit more. I did put it back down after a while though. Yeah. As you take out goons, you'll fill a meter which allows you to temporarily slow down time. This is a familiar mechanic, but it's balanced perfectly and plays into some of the perks as well.
You also come across the odd quick-time shootout when ambushed.
They attack from on high like Apaches often do.
And you also have a second chance option when you're about to die. If you hit dodge quick enough, you can avoid the bullet with your name on it and maybe survive the shootout. But once again, it's balanced and the ability has a recharge timer, so you never feel invincible. This mechanic possibly isn't explained as well as it could be, but you pick it up pretty quickly.
I liked it. It's kind of like the Matrix. Just dodging bullets. Of course, being a Western, the game features duels, but they're just that little bit more interesting than what we've seen in the past. You need to focus on an enemy by holding your cursor over their body, but it only focuses in when you stop moving. You also need to be moving your hand closer to your gun at the same time for a bit of extra speed. Most of them will take you a couple of goes, but they're rewarding when you finally win.
Yeah, and you never shoot first. I mean, that's the honourable thing to do. You know, something about this reminded me so much of old school light gun games. It's not just a shooting gallery though, you often have multiple paths and the level design also keeps things interesting. We can't say how the console versions play as we reviewed this on PC, and there were some stability issues and for some reason it kept forgetting to keep VSync on, but all round it's just a good looking game with some beautiful locations.
I'm painting a picture here. There was this beautiful waterfall and a crystal clear stream that led to a verdant valley that was truly...
Consider your picture painted. What happened next?
Because this isn't a big AAA budget game, they often reuse locations, but I think there's real art to the way they've done it because you don't feel like you're in the same place again. I especially like the boss fights, especially that one in the lumberyard.
I really didn't like the boss fights. I mean, some of them had these ridiculous health bars. It was just crazy. You know, other tougher enemies have armor plating and that's fine, but these bosses, I mean, some of them just would not go down.
Yeah, it is a bit annoying, but I thought it was okay because they obviously wanted you to spend a bit more time with the main heroes or villains in this game, and also the creative way they tell the story kind of gives it a bit of creative license. For me, it was the chase and escape sequences where the design of this game really shined, because just everything came together. The frantic pace of the storytelling, the crazy action, and when that music kicked in, which is just fantastic, it all just flowed together perfectly.
I just kept running, not knowing where the hell I was going.
Final thoughts, Hex?
Now, Hex and Bajo were about to go head-to-head on their final scores. Hex could tell Bajo was going to fan out a bit, but he was keeping his cards close to his chest. Speaking of his chest, he's put on a bit of weight lately, hasn't he? Or is it just those shirts shrinking in the wash? At least, that's what old man Bajo will tell you. Now, where were we?
Well, you can tell a lot of love and care has gone into this game, and I'm just so glad they're back on track with this series. You know, I even liked that it was only 4 hours long. I'd much rather play through a shorter but fun, polished shooter like this than slog through a full-priced 9-hour AAA military title. I thought this was brilliant. I'm giving it 9 out of 10.
Yeah, for some reason this game really spoke to me, and I think it's because I just appreciate it when every idea they've put in the game has been fleshed out and polished. This could have just been a stop-and-pop shooter, but they've really gone the extra mile to make it unique and enjoyable. I just wish it had multiplayer. I'm still giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Good game.
So did you guess the game?
For this week.
Capoeira Dodge! It was Onimusha 3 Demon Siege from 2004.
Jacques!
The third in the Onimusha series, obviously, you played as Semanasuke with close-range weapons and as Jacques, who used an energy whip. Set both in the past and modern day, the game featured some beautiful Parisian landscapes.
Next week, it's old Nathan Drake and young Ellen Page in The Last of Us.
But it's not those people at all.
Looks like them.
It is over, Tess!
What are you so afraid of?
You're treading on some mighty thin ice here.
And we light the fuse in Fuse.
Plus, over on Spawn Point this weekend, we have a look at Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gates to Infinity.
Till next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Bajo out.
All right, I'm gonna try this combat roll.
Okay, try a roll.
Okay, so oncoming danger. I'm getting out of the way.
It's not easy, is it? I'm gonna try a cartwheel plie thing that you did before.
It's not. That's a cartwheel. This is the capoeira dodge.
I've hurt myself.
She does it a bit better.